I'm the longest lasting CEO of a publicly traded enterprise software company. I live to see 99% of my peers quit or lose their job. But 99% mortality rate amongst my competitors. They all sold out over the course of 20 years. That's one interesting thing. The second thing is we did implement a capital structure so that the founders could pursue the mission of the business without volatility impacting it. And third, I'm not proud of this, but I'm the only public company officer, maybe the only public company CEO in the history of the world that actually lived to see his stock decline in value by 99.8%. My stock went from $333 a share to 42 cents a share. I kept my job, but if you were on my board of directors, you probably would have fired me if I did not have a controlling stake in the company. I kept my job and I kept the company, and I didn't dissolve it and sell it off to a megacorp to become the 167th division of IBM. And that's why I'm here today. So, people hodl, hold on for dear life or whatever it means, right? I get it, right? It's pretty obvious, but I find it's a joke, when people get on crypto Twitter and they talk about how they might have to sell if Bitcoin trades down 5%, or it's like, you guys haven't lived through anything, right? I mean, any real entrepreneur, it's not just me, any real entrepreneur that ever lived through anything will tell you the story of when they were 48 hours from bankruptcy, or when they had to mortgage their house, or when they were one customer away from utter destruction, right? And, you give up too soon, right? The world writes you out of the equation. Somebody else steps up and they take on that responsibility. And so that's my view toward commitment over time.
Welcome back to the channel. Aaron here from the Bitcoin Bros, and that was Michael Saylor in that clip telling you that you have to hold through the volatility, hold through the bear markets, and also hold through the bull markets. As you can see, he was a CEO of MicroStrategy for over 20 years, and it took him this long to get to where they are at right now. But there is a lot of fear in the market right now. This is the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, down at 28, and that is crazy because Bitcoin is at $110,000 and people are very fearful right now, which if you're looking at Bitcoin, there's not really good reason for that. Bitcoin is still up year to date. If you're looking at strategy, you could be fearful because the stock really hasn't moved all year. If we look at the 3-month return, we're down 23%. 1 year, we're still up 100% on strategy, and year to date, we're about flat. So people are fearful right now. The MNAV has gone down a bit here, and it's not just strategy, it's a lot of these other Bitcoin treasury companies like Metaplanet, like Smarter Web Company. All of these Bitcoin treasury companies have seen MNAV compression, and we're seeing the same thing from strategy right now. The price is just above $300, down 7% on Thursday. So there's just a lot of fear in the market. And if you look over on Twitter, on YouTube, there's a lot of disgruntled investors in wishing they hadn't invested in strategy. Maybe they bought in at the highs at around $500, or they bought sometime earlier in this year, and they're down on their investment right now. But we have preached this the entire year. If you're going to buy strategy, do not go all in. Do a dollar cost average, and you need to be holding strategy for at least 3 to 4 years. That is what we do. That is not financial advice, but as these prices have come down, we have been buying more shares of strategy because it's on discount and there's fear in the market, and nobody wants to buy when there's fear in the market. Everybody wants to buy when things are green. Nobody wants to buy when things are down. That is the simple premise of the stock market. So not saying to go all in right now. We could definitely go lower, but we are still looking for a good Q4, October, November. We think that we'll get a good 2 months for strategy and Bitcoin. Still believe 150K is in the cards, and that is not financial advice. But if we look at where strategy is at in the top US companies ranked by market cap, they're down 9 spots on Thursday at 125 there. But we do know that strategy still qualifies for the S&P. That could be coming on December 8th. That's a huge day to watch out for the inclusion into the S&P. And then you have Peter Schiff weighing in. While so many companies have been copying Saylor's harebrained business strategy, few have noticed that strategy is down 45% from its November 2024 high. This is going to be a brutal bear market for Bitcoin treasury companies. I'm not sure if any, including MSTR, will survive it. Now, as you can see here, he is spot picking the top price for strategy, which was a blow off top in November, where strategy peaked out at like 540, and it definitely was a blow off top. But one thing to note here is strategy in a bear market, if Bitcoin goes down to $50,000, strategy is going to be just fine. They have barely any debt on their balance sheet. And the only way for strategy at this point to fail is if Bitcoin fails. They have too much BTC. If we go into a multi-year, 3 or 4 year prolonged bear market where Bitcoin trades at $50,000, strategy will be just fine. It's just if Bitcoin fails over the long term, that's when we'll see something like strategy fail. But that's why we're here. We believe in the long-term vision of BTC, so we think strategy will be fine and it will outperform. Not financial advice. And you can see here, this is a big update from Vanguard. Initially, they didn't want to sell the Bitcoin ETFs. They didn't want to sell crypto ETFs. Now Vanguard is getting into that space, probably because they've seen how popular and how well BlackRock has done with their Bitcoin ETFs. And they're looking at this like, hey, we're missing money, and these ETFs could definitely continue to grow, and they want a piece of that, and they're finally coming around. So it's really good to see that Vanguard is actually opening their eyes to the gates of Bitcoin and crypto. And then I have a clip here from the Tiger 21 founder, and he's talking about Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and check out this clip here.
Bitcoin, has it taken some time to this? I see it every quarter. There's a little more Bitcoin, a little more Bitcoin. I feel like it's finally crossing that hurdle of we got to own it.
Yeah. So Bitcoin as a market is still only a tenth the size of gold, but they both are secure assets in members' mind. For the first time, people aren't talking about Bitcoin just as speculation, but actually an alternative asset that can be held during tough times. Not everybody believes in it, but those that do are making a big splash.
Well, into the Bitcoin treasury companies, just a couple updates on some companies buying Bitcoin. So you can see here, BHODL acquired 12 Bitcoin. They now hold 112 BTC. You have Japanese publicly traded company MagHouse. They acquired an additional 18 Bitcoin. They now hold 106 BTC. You have DDC BTC. They added another 50 Bitcoin, and now they have 1,058. And if you look at what has been happening this week, you can see just these 6 members. You have Strive, Metaplanet, Smarter Web Strategy, AllCBP, and DDC BTC. They bought just 12,741 Bitcoin this week. We know just from the miners over a 7-day period, we're getting around 3,150 Bitcoin. So they're still exceeding that, even though Bitcoin's price is coming down, and even though there's a lot of fear in the market, even though the MNAVs have compressed, there's still a lot of Bitcoin buying out there, and they're buying up more than the supply that is mined every single day. Along with the Bitcoin ETFs here, you can see yesterday on September 25th, which was Thursday, we had a $253 million outflow, and this week we've seen more outflows than inflows. But what's really interesting here is if you look at BlackRock is still inflowing while the rest of these other ETFs are outflowing. So it goes to show you, maybe BlackRock is pushing this ETF a little bit more than some of these other companies like Fidelity. We've been seeing outflows here over the past couple weeks from FBTC. So I think that these flows may continue to see red in the short term, but eventually this is going to turn back around and people are going to get more bullish in the market again. And we're going to start to see inflows for the Bitcoin ETF. And that's all I had. I have 2 clips to share with you guys. One is Tom Lee giving on his thoughts on the market, and then the Tether CEO talking about countries adopting Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. So I recommend you guys check out both of these clips here. Let's go ahead and check those out. I really appreciate you watching all the way to the end. My name is Eric from Bitcoin Bros. I'm out. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.
You back. I know you love this trade, but what do you make of what Mr. Griffin had to say?
Well, I agree with him. We're in a period where there is a super cycle and exponential growth opportunities within AI. But it doesn't mean every company that has elevated valuation today deserves to actually have the capital, and that company may not even reinvest that capital properly to be a survivor. So I agree there is going to eventually be a shakeout, but I think valuations, strangely enough, are actually pretty reasonable today compared to 1998, because 1998 was that liftoff point before that final 18-month surge. And I'd say the best benchmark is NVIDIA trades at 26 times forward earnings. Cisco at that same exact moment was at 60 times, and Cisco's PE peaked at 210 times forward earnings. So NVIDIA, to me, is still a bargain at 26 times. It's cheaper than Costco and Walmart, which are close to 50 times forward earnings.
That the first movers will gather a lot of interest. As countries, right, realize that embracing Bitcoin can make a huge difference. We have seen El Salvador tourism increasing 30% just because they supported Bitcoin. Given the opportunity in the crypto space, it's crazy not to look into it, at least deeper. Cities that realize this will reap the major benefits. And I believe that also applies to companies that actually realize this and then embrace Bitcoin, embrace STOs, embrace the investments from Bitcoin holders and from huge whales and retail and institutions that are already operating in crypto. That is going to be a game changer for them. When I talk to Bitcoiners, they tell me this is the true moment of test for what we have been saying and doing for the last 10 years. We want to see this through. We want this to be a successful experience, because we kept saying ourselves for 10 years that Bitcoin can save countries, Bitcoin can help countries and cities, and is the best global currency. We will not let this fail. So this is what a ton of people are telling me. And that is right? So we have been building something for the last 10 to 12 years. And this is the actual moment of truth.